Jana,
Hello.
today we're chatting about what we would do if we were starting over on Pinterest
From scratch. No
from
Pinterest.
scratch.
Just learned about it for the first time. Don't
Yeah.
know what it is yet.
And right before this, I was actually telling you what I was working on.
Right.
I just did a launch end of April, beginning of, no, end of March, beginning of April.
Uh-huh.
And my bonus was a board and keyword plan, like a board and matching keyword plan. And I would offer
Nice.
well, one of the last one I did actually has no Pinterest account. Like they have an account, but like it's blank.
Oh, okay.
And we have this topic to talk about today. So I thought this would
Yeah.
be like a great way to kind of start this off. Is like I put this plan together for her and
Hmm.
sent her over her boards, but like she might be the only one I do this for, but part of what I sent over to her was like big picture thoughts of like how you're going to use this going forward because she said she was
Yep.
brand new to Pinterest. She's never used it before. She doesn't have an account, like she has an account, but she doesn't have anything there.
Right.
And if I were starting over today, that's the advice that I was hoping that, I would hope that I
Yeah.
would get.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I'm actually doing a similar bonus coming up for a like a flash bonus that I'm doing. This is the first I've actually spoken about it
Oh,
publicly. And I have about 15 emails that I want to write about the bonus, and
yeah,
two of them actually are like how this bonus is going to help you if you already are doing Pinterest, but you want it to work better. And then
yeah,
another one that I'm sending out back to back with that one is how this bonus will help you if you've never started Pinterest.
right.
So yeah, same thought process, right? It's like if you've never started it, or if you have an account but you've always used it for personal purposes and you've literally never touched it with any intention of using it for business yet. If we were in that situation today, what would we do? So I love this topic and I have some ideas.
All right. Well, let's dive in then. So I think a good place to start is kind of around the thought process of like how we would use Pinterest, you know,
Right. Strategy.
the strategy. Yeah. And as I was doing board strategy today for a couple of different bonus plans,
Hmm.
I noticed a thought process that I was having that I hadn't spoken about before. I haven't really taught in this kind of way before. But the thought process was I was doing this one bonus plan for a gal, and she had a bunch of boards that were like fill in the blank tips, and then some more that were like fill in the blank strategy. She was a marketing person. And I got to thinking to myself, like, these seem like the same boards, but really they're not. And a lot of people would look at these and be like, these are overlapping, but like tips
Yeah.
and strategy generally could be thought of as two different things. So that's kind of how I'm going into this strategy thought
Right.
process and conversation of like, how do you use Pinterest strategically to get in front of your audience? And I think the first place to start truly is your keyword plan and then your boards.
Hmm. Agree.
Thoughts?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. I think back to the high level framework that I used to use for my intensives back in the day when I was running Pinterest intensives, where we would do like a whole day together of getting your
Yeah.
Pinterest profile set up. Not a whole day, but like a 5 hour day with breaks.
Yeah.
Um, and it was always for me three P's, so purpose, and then profile, and then pin plan. So I agree with you. I think my first thought was jumping right into profile,
Yeah.
which would be so going against my own framework, which
Yeah.
would be like, okay, what keywords do I want to be found for? Where am I going to put those keywords on my profile? All that kind of stuff. Where am I going to put them in the boards? But I think you're right, stepping back and looking first at the purpose. I think
Mhm.
for you and I, if we were both starting from scratch, we already feel like we know what our purpose would be, but if we really were starting from scratch, we wouldn't know what our purpose was. So we'd be
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, let's stop and think about what the role is that I want Pinterest to play in my business. So for me, I feel like I would be set up very well to start Pinterest from scratch if I had
Yeah.
to, because um, I have a high converting blog. So I have written blog posts based on the things that my audience needs to hear and learn and understand more deeply to be ready to buy. And that's what I teach, right? In
Yeah.
HLC as well. So I would just start by making a list of my blog posts and think to myself, well, no, I'm sorry. I would start with purpose. Sorry, I keep getting ahead of myself. So I would think, okay, I want Pinterest to bring me people who are searching for certain things, and I want them to bring them to my blog posts because my blog posts are high converting. And I know if I get people who are already interested in my offer and the things that my offer solves, right? They
Hmm.
already have these problems and they're looking to solve them. And they already have these goals for their content and their marketing, because that's what I teach, and they're looking to solve them. I know if I can get those people connected to my high converting blog posts, that
Hmm.
the magic is going to happen, right? So I would be thinking in terms of purpose. That's my main purpose for Pinterest would be to get people to my blogs. And then I would also be thinking of the purpose as getting them wanting to subscribe to my email list and wanting them, so what, getting them wanting to read my blogs and reading them, wanting to subscribe to my email list, which my blogs naturally can lead into as well. And then obviously I'd want to get them like buying HLC. So if I want them buying my product, my offer, then I need to think about who exactly would it be for and get in front of those people, right? So if
Yeah.
you back up and you think about the purpose, that's where I think, yeah, starting would make sense. So if you were starting from scratch, if you had no Pinterest yet and you were just learning about it, how would you, what would be your purpose for your Pinterest initially?
I think my purpose for my Pinterest initially would be obviously I would want, yes, the purpose would be important to figure out. So number one, I would want people to know who I am and to equate me with my promise and the outcomes that I provide to my clients and students.
Yeah, really good.
So that awareness of who I am, I think is important. And I feel like a lot of people back burner Pinterest as an awareness platform when it's
Mm,
really an everything platform. People can learn about you there, they can buy from you there, um, not on Pinterest, but through Pinterest. And I think an awareness platform, I think, is a really good place to start, especially as a beginner, because
mm,
if you're a beginner, depending on where you're at in your business, maybe you don't have your sales and messaging like nailed down to where you're getting consistent conversions. So that's something you're probably going to have to be working on. And I see this as a big mistake that a lot of people make when it comes to Pinterest marketing is they have a blog, they have an e-commerce store or whatever, and then they start marketing on Pinterest and they immediately expect to see results.
yeah.
And those results are almost always conversions in the form of sales or leads to their email list or
Mm,
blog traffic ultimately. But I feel like people move a little bit too fast, which is why I initially bring up awareness. I
hmm.
think that it's a really solid platform for that. And
Yeah.
then kind of secondary to that obviously would be that traffic to my website. And then
Hmm.
through that, I would begin working on making sure that my website is converting and people are, having a good time there when they're there
Hmm.
and they're getting the most out of what I offer. So I think as a beginner, I see a blank profile as actually a strength because
Mm,
you get to kind of dictate the plan and the journey from a complete like clean slate and you're not having to change things or rename things or add to them and clean them up, archive them, delete them.
hmm.
So I think that's a really solid kind of beginning point.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned as part of purpose, not just traffic, but brand awareness, especially I think for like when I think about my students and clients who are known for something pretty specific
Hmm.
or want to be known for something pretty specific. I think that can be so magical, right? Because they say that people need to see you like what 14 times or something like that before
Yeah.
they trust you and feel ready to buy. And so they need that brand awareness of who you are. And so if you are someone who, is known or wants to be known for, helping women with fertility issues, or
Hmm.
even maybe more specific than that, like helping, women in a certain age group with fertility issues or something like that. Or if you are someone who wants to be well known for helping, um, I don't know, like online dating coaches do their marketing,
Yeah.
or like super specific, or you are someone who wants to be known for, like me, I'm known for a capsule blog library and creating a
Yeah.
capsule blog library that's pretty unique. If there's something you are uniquely doing that you want to become known for, Not that you can't use brand awareness on Pinterest if you are more generalized, but I think especially if you're particularly niched, it's such a good place to become known because
Really is.
you're going to be able to hone in on like just the right keywords and really have like you're going to like dominate the feed for those keywords if you are doing a good job with your keywords and with your content. And Pinterest can see that it's quality content that you're pinning to and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So building that brand awareness so that you become the person that people think of when they think of that thing is such a good call out
So
by you.
we
So
we
yeah.
once had this thought process or philosophy, especially 10 years ago when I started
Mhm.
online. There was this conversation going around about how, you know, you should niche down. And then we went into a phase where you didn't need to niche. I've always
You are
chosen,
the niche.
yeah, I've always chosen the route of like Pinterest is my niche, but I help all
Mhm.
sorts of people with their Pinterest marketing strategy because I do have that strength that I can see this brand and this brand and this brand, and they're all different kind of segments or they do
Mhm.
different things. Uh,
Yep.
it's one of my specialties that I can see kind of different strategies for different companies. And
Hmm.
Pinterest has kind of always been my niche, but the more I've worked with people on Pinterest over the years, the more I realize how powerful a niche on Pinterest is,
Oh
especially
yeah.
a hyper-specific niche.
Yeah.
I've said this on lives in the past. Like some of my most, performing content are tool posts. Posts about specific tools that I use in
Hmm.
my business. You mentioned this on last week's live with the sauna
Hmm.
being pins that just perform and have forever perform for you. I did two Pinterest board plans today for bonus members, and one of them was for an e-commerce shop that sells cards that are city specific. And they're basically like 50 different things to do in those cities. So you can get out of your house with your family and go do something off screens and have like
Oh.
build
Hmm.
memories. It's such
Yeah.
a unique thing. And I
Hmm.
told this person, I think that your product is going to be like a hit once you build the awareness and like
Hmm.
the drive to
Yep.
buy your product around it. Especially when I was just talking to Nate about this. Sorry, I'm going around in circles.
Mm-mm.
Yesterday we were sitting at the beach, the two of us. We went for a
Oh,
long walk and I
nice. Hmm.
ordered a limoncello spritz and I was enjoying my drink and I look over and for the third time in a week, I noticed another couple on a date and they had a card game.
Hmm.
I was like, I'm noticing around here, especially like families bring board games and card games out to dinner
Hmm.
with them, and like they sit on patios and they have
They play
drinks,
games.
snacks, and
Hmm.
they play games. Like,
That's so cool.
especially related to this person that I just did
Hmm.
this Pinterest plan for today with the cards. I told her, like, this is going to be really important, especially in times where the prices for activities are so high and families are looking for more free things to do.
Hmm.
Third spaces are harder to, get into or even get to with the rising cost of transportation, the
Right.
need for parking, like all of these reasons keep people in their homes.
Hmm.
So, long story short, I think that is
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, and I think that, when people hear the word niche, they think of it comes along with certain connotations, and really what it
Yeah.
just means is specificity.
Yeah.
And niching is one way to be very specific, and specificity is always going to help you on a search engine.
Mhm.
And one of the things I think about when I think about that, like niching and brand, coming back to brand awareness as part of the purpose for Pinterest, if you're setting it up for the first time and remembering that brand awareness is valuable.
Yeah.
Um, you know, over the years, I have primarily done Pinterest marketing work and content and blog work as well for coaches and service providers. I have had other folks, right? Other like product sellers and digital product sellers and
Yeah.
some authors and people like that. But, most of my clients over the years have been coaches and service providers. And one of the main reasons why I'm always trying to educate them and discourage them from thinking about comparing their Pinterest numbers to the Pinterest numbers of someone who's like a blogger
Yeah.
or an e-commerce shop or a food, someone in the food space, if they're like in the fertility space or if they're in the dating space or whatever it is because the number is not the number in terms of impressions and outbound clicks and all those numbers,
Yeah.
they're not really like if you have lower numbers because you have a specific niche and you're using more niche keywords and you're trying to attract a certain niche group of people who are more likely to buy your offer, then I'd rather see you have, 10 outbound clicks a month and, 500 impressions a month instead of, the, 1,000 outbound clicks a month and, tens of thousands impressions of every month if you're in more of a specific niche. Because again, at the end of the day, the metric that matters the most to me is are people who are coming to your website from Pinterest buying?
Yeah.
So this all gets back to just purpose and really realizing that you can use Pinterest for brand awareness to become well known, especially works well if you're in a particular niche or you have a
Yeah.
specific thing that you are known for or want to be known for. Um, and thinking about Pinterest, if I'm starting over, my purpose is would be to, you can choose your purposes, right? Maybe your main thing is to get email list opt-ins. Maybe your main thing is to get blog readers.
Yeah.
For me, it's blog readers because I know my blog gets people onto my email list and gets
Mhm.
people buying my paid offers. So that would kind of be like what I would think of as my main purpose.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are some things that like people can kind of think about and decide when if they're starting over and what we would think about if we were starting over.
So if you need a recap, because we've been yapping here
Yeah,
for
we got a
a minute,
little bit around in a circle. Yeah,
the first thing that we would do is focus on the purpose behind why we would be on Pinterest in the first place.
right.
What
What
do
is it
we
going to do
all,
for my business
yeah, what is
specifically?
it ultimately going to do for my business? And how is that going to help me in the long term?
Yeah.
And that's the first place.
And I think one of the main reasons why that's so important is because then all the decisions that you make come out from that, right? Like if you decided that your purpose was A, then when you move on to the next step, you're going to try to find keywords that are going to help you with that purpose. But if you decided your purpose was something totally different, then when you go to build your profile and choose keywords, then your decisions might be different based on
Yeah.
that purpose. So that's why it's so important to start with that, like it is in any kind of marketing or any kind of anything, is knowing what you're trying to do before you start
Yeah.
doing it, ideally, right? Yeah.
I do think that I am guilty of not focusing on that when it comes to, creating marketing plans for myself. And ultimately that is only going to cause more work for you. And that's something that I told this person that I created for the Pinterest plan for the cards
Hmm.
is you don't want to necessarily treat it like a product storefront because you don't have anything on your profile. Your first instinct might be to just create boards for the product, but ultimately you're going to also want to create boards for the content that's going to support the product because
Right.
people aren't just going to want to buy these right away. They're going to need to understand what they're for
Hmm.
and how they're going to help them to have less screen time or get out of their houses or whatever the purpose is of the product, right? So I think starting there is a really good place. And that brings me to the next thing that I would do if I were a beginner is the keyword research and really figuring out like how are people searching for me?
Yep.
What are they looking for? And then really diving into like the different angles that someone would be searching for.
Hmm.
And I've talked about this for years in different ways, but that's really like the easiest way that I can say it for people to understand. Like, what are all the different angles that people are going to search for related to your 5 pillars? And just starting with like a list of priority boards. So maybe you start with 5 boards. And then
Yep.
over time, as you build your content out on Pinterest, as you create pins for those URLs over and over again, because that's a common question I get all the time. Is how many times can I make a pin for the same URL? You just keep doing it.
Forever.
But as you build out your profile, you're going to come up with new angles of doing that. And ultimately,
Mhm.
you're going to come up with new boards. And that's where this whole thing is going to lead you first, is creating boards, because you need boards for your content to go on.
Yep. Yep. I agree. And so for me, if I were starting over, I definitely would sit down, do keyword research, find out what people are searching for, think about what kinds of problems am I solving, what kind of goals does my offer help with, all those things to find the right keywords, like you said, from different angles. So, for example, if I'm thinking about what problems my offer solves if I'm starting over,
Yeah.
um, maybe people are, frustrated because they feel like they don't really know what to say in their content to make sales. That's like one of
Yeah.
the problems that my offer solves because I teach you in HLC how to figure out exactly what your audience needs to feel ready to buy. So if I start looking for keywords around that, I might be looking for things like content that converts, or my content isn't converting, or how to get clients with like online, or how to get clients with a blog that might be a little too specific, but it might be there. And so I'd start doing my research to find out if these things that I believe my audience is searching for, to find the actual words that they're searching for. And we use the search bar on Pinterest primarily to do that.
Yeah.
Just the predictive text. It's actually a lot simpler than it sounds. It just
Yeah.
takes a process. And I know I teach that process in my Pinterest course. You teach that process in your membership. If
Mhm.
anyone needs the exact process, but it's really sitting down with like a notebook or a Google Doc and
Mhm.
starting to record what you're finding is showing up in the predictive text and really thinking, like you said, from different angles, like what problems am I solving? What
Yeah.
goals do I have? What do people believe right now that is keeping them, right? Because sometimes, like when you do keyword research, you need to kind of like meet people where they're at. So you might find that someone's searching a keyword, and at first you're like, I don't like that. I don't want to write about that. But then you're like, well, that's what they're thinking right now, and I actually need to create content to show them that
Yeah.
even though they're searching that, that's not really the solution that they need, right? So
Yeah.
thinking about those different angles, I think makes a lot of sense. And I'd make that list of all those keywords. The other thing I would do, because I'm in a position where I have a capsule blog library that I know is high converting, is I would make a list of my blog posts. And I would not only think about, like you were saying a second ago, what solutions, what problems does my paid offer solve, and what goals does my paid offer help with, and things like that. I would look at every single blog post that I've written,
Yeah.
because I've written them specifically because they are something that my audience needs to feel ready to buy. And I would look at each one of those blog posts almost like it's a product and think, okay, what problems does this blog post solve? What goals does this blog post help with? And I would find at least 10 keywords for each one of those blog posts as well
Yeah.
and record those with the blog posts. And that would also give me another way, an angle, if you will, or an approach to kind of diversify the keywords that I'm recording on my keyword list that I'd be developing if I were starting over from scratch.
Yeah.
So,
I just published a video yesterday for anyone that is watching live or watching the replay that I think is really um it really supports what we're talking about right now with pins and then
mhm.
also boards.
Mm.
It's Pinterest SEO pins versus boards and like what the difference is
Mm.
and how to think
Mhm.
about them.
Oh, yeah.
And I in the video, I talk about how boards help support topic authority, and then your pins can help to diversify and further your reach for that topic. As you think about your boards and your board topic might be like things to do in Seattle, but then all of the different things that you can do in Seattle really amplify that one board about things to do in Seattle. You can obviously go out to eat. There's hotels that you can find that probably have, things to do in them. There are activities and parks and play places and like all these different things that you
Museums and
do.
zoos.
Right. So you can see kind of how it could really amplify and grow.
Mhm.
And that adds on to what you're talking about, Jana, with the angles and the different
Mhm.
keywords.
Yep.
So keywords really multiply and amplify a
Yeah.
topic.
Yeah, and
Even
it can kind of go both ways because let's use the things to do in Seattle as an example. Let's say you're thinking of all these things that you could do in Seattle and you're realizing a lot of them fall under the category of like nature. So it's like things to do in nature in Seattle could be a whole nother board in
Yeah,
addition to your things to do in Seattle board. And then let's say you find a bunch of keywords that have to do with things to do in nature in Seattle.
yeah,
Well, great, that's awesome. But my question for you is, do you have blog posts to put on that board? And
right.
if you're a blogger, which you probably are, if your things to do in Seattle is your blog, is your
Yeah,
topic, although you just mentioned the card person, so maybe not. But then chances are, what am I saying? Oh yeah, if you have blogs about that, then you'll
hmm
be able to put them on those boards. And so if you don't have blogs about that and you're a blogger or you want to write blogs about them, you can. But also, this is why if I were starting from scratch, I would start by making a list of my blogs because if you spend a couple of hours building out boards, about things, and then you're like, oh, I don't have any content to put on those boards. Now you've just made yourself more work and you have to write
Yeah.
content to put on those blogs. And that's okay, right? Maybe that's a good thing because you're finding people are searching for it. So that's a good
Yeah.
way to decide what your next blog is about. But that's very much a blogger kind of model. Whereas
Yeah.
in my world, if you're writing a capsule blog library, which is where we write 12 to 20 pieces of content that cover the key things that your audience needs to feel ready to buy, and then we stop and we don't keep writing new blogs every week or every month. Instead, we use what we've written and reshare it and get clients with it. Because of my model being that way, that's how I do it in my business and that's how I teach it. I would start with the blogs because I don't want to be in the situation where I end up
Yeah.
with a bunch of boards with keywords and then be like, oh crap, like these, I don't have any pins to put on these boards.
To be clear,
So
if
yeah,
you are a blogger, you should use the method that Janet is talking about. And that's what I teach as well, is to
yep.
audit what you already have and build out from there.
Hmm.
We're not starting in reverse and then going and creating all of that because you're just going to burn yourself out. There's no reason or like no way that that is a responsible way to go about it. So definitely listen to what
Yeah.
Janet is saying
Well, I
because
would
that's what I teach too.
listen to Jana. But what I would say is like, again, people might be listening and think, oh, well, wait a minute. If they're searching for nature in Colorado, and what is it? Where were we? Where were we again?
Seattle.
Seattle. Then maybe I do need content for it. And yes, I'm not negating that. You're right. And that's why if you're a blogger, that might be a
Yeah.
great way to go because you're always looking for new blog post topics to write anyway. But if you're in my world and you're writing a capsule blog and you don't want to be a blogger where you have to write a new blog post every single week for the rest of your damn life, then you probably don't want to use that method. Instead, you want to
Yeah.
start with your blog posts and find keywords for those blog posts so that you'll have boards to put your blog posts on and you won't have big empty boards that you don't have any content for.
Exactly.
um, so yeah, anyway, that's definitely I'd say where we would go next, right? So first we'd do purpose, then we'd start working on profile, which starts with keyword research. And then once you've identified a bunch of keywords that you know you want to get found for, you can add your keywords to various places in your profile. Heather and I both have lots of free content about how to do that, where to do that, that kind of thing. But that would be part of like what I would consider kind of step two if I were starting from scratch would be to build out my profile, make sure
Yeah.
I have the right keywords, make sure I have the right boards, like you said, on the profile. And then, yeah, and then that's definitely like, yeah, where we would, again, what we would do if we were starting from scratch.
Yeah. I think that getting even just like getting a feel. So even going in reverse a little bit on this conversation and like just
Hmm.
going and playing with Pinterest too to get a feel for the platform and how users are even just interacting with content is
Hmm.
also just really good advice for people that may be starting out and may have
Yeah.
not used Pinterest before.
Yeah,
Because
that's a good point because it's like I'm kind of assuming that like people already kind of know a little bit about just how it works, like how discovery works and stuff.
and
But if you don't, figure it out first. Yeah.
why do a lot of people actually come to me that have never used Pinterest and they're like,
Yeah.
I have a business. I heard Pinterest is good for my business and my need.
Right.
Help me. I've never used this platform. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. And I think one of the reasons why we get, especially you, but we both get a disproportionate amount of people like that is because those people tend to realize that they need someone to teach them how to do it.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, okay. They're thinking about it from a business perspective and they're like, but I don't know how. So it makes sense to them to like pay somebody, whether it's through your membership, for example, or through your consulting, to have someone show them because they're not used to it. So we see a lot more people like that in
Yeah.
our offers, right? So
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to say something that might be a little, I don't think to be shocking or anything like that. And I'm not trying to create clickbait or like anything like that. But
hot take coming in, hot take
um,
incoming.
so maybe like a lukewarm take is when I'm starting when I have that list of keywords that, so I have my purpose, I have that figured out. I've
Mhm.
created my boards. I've got that figured out. Now I'm going to take this list of keywords and I'm going to create content.
Mhm.
If I were just starting out, I would take my pillar content that I want to be known for, the things that I know do the heaviest lifting in my business. So for your service providers and coaches in your HLC program, and for people like me who have created a lot of content and I'm just looking to put it to work, I think I would start with that short list of content first and come
Mhm.
up
Yeah.
with anywhere from like 15 to 30 different angles and supporting keywords for those topics and just start creating pins for those and start staggering them out. Now, I don't really care about how often you pin or whatever. If you want to do one a day, do one a day. If you want to do 5 a day, do 5 a day. Just know you're going to need the
That's
pin
too much.
content
That's too,
to go
5 a day is too much. Go
to
ahead.
go for that, right?
Crazy. Yeah.
What I'm saying is I don't care about the frequency, but I want
Right.
you, if you're just starting out, to hyper focus in on those pillars that you are working on in your business, whether it's blog posts, podcasts, YouTube videos, for lead magnets, or paid offers. Those 5 types, if you have any of those, I want you to hyper focus in on those URLs and make pins for them from all these different angles that you can come up with the supporting keywords. And I want you to do that until you are just so bored with yourself that you want to throw in the towel. Because that is the point at which, when you reach that point of like, oh my gosh, I don't know how many times I can say the same damn thing, Jenna. Like, that's where you are really going to start to hone that skill
Yeah.
of this like this marketing strategy on this platform. And what you're going to end up with, the result is going to be keyword that has been content that has been blah, content that has been indexed for all of these different keyword opportunities
hmm
that is probably going to last and surface for years to come.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say that I love that. And I also think that's a very like Pinterest centric perspective for people that have like a good amount of time in the beginning to really like do the Pinterest strategy,
Yeah.
which makes sense because you have people who've joined your Pinterest membership and they're all in and they're ready to do it right. And
Yeah.
right. Oh, we've got a little bitty in the back.
Yeah.
Um, and I agree with you entirely. I think if I were starting over, I would also like keep my eye on kind of like a minimum viable strategy because I know for my coaches and service providers and people in HLC, um, we need to be able to like bite off what we can chew too. So I
Yeah.
would say start with like 10 or 15 keywords, start with 5 boards, and then like get the hang of it and build from there. Um, and then from there, I would say yes, like start thinking of all the different angles and like
Mhm.
yeah, get yourself to the point where you're like you said, like bored of yourself for thinking of all the different ways to do it. But I do think you can start by setting up like the basics with like, around,
Yeah.
10 or 15 keywords, 5 boards, and then like get in the habit of pinning regularly. Um, and then build out like from there. Just so
Yeah.
you feel like you're making progress and you're not like thinking too much before you're doing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of a
Yeah.
balance. It's like a balance.
It is.
Delicate one.
And I still very much create a pin plan every single month for myself and my clients. For
Mm,
myself, it's generally 20 or so URLs, and I
hmm
repeat those however many times I want pins for the month.
Yep.
Going into May, I'm actually putting a pause on my team doing my Pinterest because I want to reinvent it a little bit.
Mm,
I'm going to come back at it. But yeah, I just lately it's been the same list of URLs over and over again because that's what I have time for. But it's
yeah,
also
it works.
my best list of content and offers,
Right.
and it's what I
hmm
want people to see.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
it's okay if that stuff repeats.
Yeah.
And this is especially important for Jana's HLC people because, you guys are creating a capsule library and it might be 12 to 20 blog posts, and that's all the URLs that you have outside of maybe lead magnets and paid offers.
Yep.
So
Yeah, that's all you really need for a minimum viable strategy that grows your audience, gets leads, gets clients. Again, with that kind of strategy, you're not going to see 10,000
yeah,
visits to your website every month from Pinterest like a blogger would.
no,
But if you get, I actually just did some research today because I'm starting to write emails for the bonus that I have coming up where I find keywords for my students when they join HLC.
yeah,
Keywords for Pinterest, just to be clear. And I'm doing like a done for you Pinterest setup that people are going to get as a bonus when they join HLC. So again, haven't talked about it publicly yet, but it's coming. So I started writing emails about it today. And one of the emails I wanted to look at my own personal results with my own Pinterest profile.
yeah,
And I looked it up, and in the last 90 days, I've had 200 visits to my website from Pinterest, all organic. I had to divide out organic because I have been running Pinterest ads, right, too.
Yeah.
So we wanted to make sure that those numbers are not showing up in these numbers because most of my students aren't going to be running ads. They could, but it's like going to be a separate strategy.
Yeah.
Not even a separate strategy, but it's like it's not part of like the basic strategy. So I was like, great, 200, clicks to my website in the last 90 days for basically doing like 90 minutes a month, maybe at the
Yeah.
most on my Pinterest strategy. Now, for some people, again, like bloggers or e-commerce sellers or anyone in like a really big popular Pinterest niche, like fashion or um, food, they might be like 200 outbound clicks in 90 days. That's terrible.
Yeah.
But for
They
me, it's
might think
amazing. It's
that.
so
Yeah.
good because it's on autopilot for me with 90 minutes a month, for Pinterest. And I know that those 200 people are primarily people who've searched for something that's pretty niche on
Yeah.
Pinterest. And they're just the right people for my email list, for my offers, etc. I also looked at my onboarding forms and I've had 72 people join HLC since January 1 this year. And 10 of them mentioned Pinterest in the onboarding form question that said, how did you find out about me and HLC? Oh, what's going on?
Love them. I'll show you after we get off our live.
Okay.
I'm gonna go show them the
Um,
internet and then I'll bring them back.
Okay, because I don't share my kids with the internet.
yeah,
So
I know. Um,
um
yeah, so
no, that's great. 10?
yeah, 10 people out of the 72 mentioned Pinterest. As how they found me. Um, and it was
That's
a little bit of a variety. I think like maybe 7 of those 10 like literally just said Pinterest. I found you on Pinterest.
yeah.
And then one of them I noticed said, I found you on Pinterest years ago and I knew the person. And I was like, oh yeah, like she found me on Pinterest like years ago and she knows me from all kinds of things now too, but she did mention Pinterest. And then a couple of them were like a little more obscure. They were like I think I was searching something on Pinterest or something, you know what I mean? So, but like a good number of them were just like, oh yeah, I'm sure, I know that the first time I heard about you was on Pinterest. So, and some of those people had just heard about me recently this year and came to my website, my blog, got everything they needed and bought right away. So Pinterest isn't necessarily just a long game either, just to point that out. Um, and then there are some people on there for whom it was a long game, who, have known me for years, who found me years ago on Pinterest and then just bought HLC recently. They may have bought Pinterest with purpose in the past, or they've been on my list for a while and just weren't ready to buy yet. But it's all a variety. Like I said, some of them found me on Pinterest this year, bought this year, like it was fast, and other people it took a while. So yeah, I don't know why I went on this tangent. Do you remember why? I think it was just about like the number of outbound clicks being 200 and me being like, some people would think that was crappy, but for me, it's great.
Yeah, we were talking about the time frame basically of like
Yeah,
results and things.
yeah,
So
yeah.
um okay, kind of
Summary.
in summary, just like a summary of what we've talked about today, if we were starting over, is number one is to figure out the purpose of your account. Number two is to then take that purpose and do some keyword research that you're then going to use for number three, which is your Pinterest boards. We didn't mention profile objects like your display name and bio, but you're also going to use those keywords in those places as
Yeah,
well.
that's part of profile building.
Yeah, you're going to build out your profile. So that's, object number three or task number three. And then task number four is to create Pinterest pins
Yep.
and really hone in those keywords and Pinterest pins on different kind of angles that you want to be known for, you want to be found for. And you're just going to set that on repeat. And you're going to set yourself a task every month. Now, I will give you guys a short list of what I like to do for a workflow. The last week of every month, I like to be scheduling my content. So you need to back it up.
Mm-hmm.
So the first week of every month, I'm creating a pin plan for the following month. So
Mm.
we are coming up on the beginning of May right now. I'm already creating pins right now for May and June for my clients because I'm taking some time off in July. But in the beginning of May, I would be creating my plan for June. And then the next week of May, I would be creating assets. So creating pins and copy. Third week of May, I'd be scheduling those pins for June. And then the final week of June, I'm repeating the cycle over again. So I'm looking at analytics, I'm reviewing those things. Then I'm getting started again with maybe I take a week off.
You are so much more strategic than I am.
And then I
Go
get
ahead.
going again. And it's just a repeatable process that I do every single month, streamlined, no matter what. Like I'm
Mhm.
working on repeat and it's just an oiled machine at this point. And I don't even have to think about it. It's just a task that I do every single week. It's
So you kind of create like you kind of teach you treat your own profile, your own Pinterest account kind of like one of your clients. Like you're doing
I
your
do.
client work every month, so you're also adding your own stuff in there as one of your
Mhm.
clients, basically. That's so smart.
Yeah, for the last couple of years, my team has pretty well handled the whole process for me.
Yeah, because they're used to it.
I
That's what they do.
Yeah,
Right.
and
Awesome.
I'm taking that back starting in May because I'm going to be rebranding, not rebranding, but I'm going to be reworking my templates and like breathing some new life into it and then using that to create some content around.
Nice.
So I obviously need to have some control over that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it
but
makes sense for
yeah,
you to
my
take it
team
back for a while.
has
Hmm.
pretty well taken care of it for a while. I just give them
Nice.
the URLs and the copy that I want them to use.
Hmm.
And then it's it's spring here, so my nose is so itchy and runny.
I hear
Um,
you.
and then they make the pins and they schedule them. So
Nice.
it's worked out really well. But yeah, I think that
Thanks.
it's something
Good.
that Pinterest as a whole is something that is a skill you can learn and it's very achievable. It might feel hard at first, but honestly, it's one of the easiest marketing platforms as far as like showing up.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to show up yourself regularly. There's no engagement required, no peopling,
No,
so to
no
speak.
peopling.
It's so different than social media. And like I said, of all those pins that are bringing me about 200 website visitors on autopilot pretty much
Hmm.
to my website a month and getting clients, signing or joining HLC, most of those pins are pins that I created. I mean, they all are actually created once, and then they just keep, they keep resurfacing in people's searches when they search for
Yeah,
them. So it's so much more low maintenance than social media in all of those ways. So it's definitely um, a platform worth exploring if you haven't yet, which is why we
yeah,
wanted to talk about what we would do if we were starting over. And I was just going to say that you're so much more strategic than I am, but you kind of have to be because A, this is like literally like you do this for clients. I don't do it for clients anymore. I never actually did like management anyway. I did strategy and setups. And I did a little management. I dabbled, but not really. I never needed like the kinds of systems that you have, and I'm not delegating it either right now. I could, but I'm not. So I don't need to like prepare things in advance for my team. So what I do is I sit down once a month, sometimes once every other month, and I make a crap load of pins on Canva using my templates.
yeah.
And I go into a spreadsheet that I have that has all my blog posts, and I just pick which ones I want to make pins for this month, make a bunch of them, and I schedule them all out. And I use the native scheduler to schedule them out 30 days, and then I use later to schedule them out beyond 30 days if I want to do more than 30 days. I actually do both because later has like limits to how many you can have pre-scheduled. So between the 30
Yeah.
days in Pinterest natively and then the number, whatever it is that the limit I can have scheduled at any time in later, I can get 60 or even 90 days worth of pins just like scheduled and up and running. And I'm usually pinning like just a few pins a week these days. I'm not even pinning one a day anymore. I did in the beginning, but I don't really even pin that often anymore.
Yeah.
I just like to have some fresh pins going out because that gives them a chance to become the future legacy pins and drive lots of traffic. But it's so like low maintenance for me these days. So
Love that.
I'm like kind of willy-nilly about it. I mean, I dip into my keyword bank to find the keywords I want to use for the descriptions
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. And I might create a new board every once in a while too, and keyword that. But generally speaking, like I am like pretty fly by the seat of the pants when it comes to my Pinterest strategy, which is kind of funny because like I'm not usually like that with most things, but I
I
find
don't
with Pinterest I can be now. I can just kind of do it and not worry about it because I've got such a good solid strategy behind me. So
I don't actually think that you are fly by the seat of your pants because you established your strategy long ago and you're
yeah.
still
And
following
I'm
it.
just, yeah, that's true. You're right.
So in your planning, you might be a little bit fly by the seat of your pants, but even
Loosey
then, like you
goosey.
still have this library of content that you're just reworking through. And I think that's great.
Yeah.
And it's still sending you traffic to your website, and those people are getting on your email list and that are
Hmm.
ultimately buying your course. And that's what your purpose is
Yeah.
for
Yep.
Pinterest.
Exactly.
So you're fulfilling that purpose. And I
I
think that's
am fulfilling the purpose.
great. Okay, so next week we are chit-chatting about how brand strategists and web design clients can get web designers can get clients using Pinterest. And I can't wait to send this one out to my email list actually after it's over because I have quite a few people that fit those categories.
Me too. I have a lot of web designers and brand strategists who come into high leverage content and
Yeah.
learn how to write content that gets clients. A lot of them are, come in writing things that are like just really general, like, how
Mhm.
to pick a color palette and,
Yeah.
why website design is so important, why customer journey on your website is important, things like that. And it's not working for them really anymore. So they
Yeah.
come into HLC for a better strategy. And yeah, and Pinterest, I think, is a great place specifically for that group because traditionally over the years, there's been a lot of like design inspiration on Pinterest. So people are looking for design inspiration. So that's one of the things we'll talk about next week is like, well, how do you take people who are just looking for design inspiration
Yep.
and turn them into someone who would actually hire you and pay you, $1,500, $3,000, $15,000 for some of these, brand strategy and website packages that I see out there.
Yeah.
How would you, how do you make that? How do you bridge that, right? So,
I mean, mine was 4 years ago and I paid $7,500. So
mhm.
I'm sure the price has gone up. I need to start saving because I'm
Yeah,
itching for a rebrand actually. So
I kind of am too. I'm thinking about it for next year. Yeah.
yeah, I need to save some money. I got to
Mm.
sell some stuff, so I'm gonna go send some emails.
Perfect.
Okay, we'll see you here at 10 a.m. Eastern time next week to chit chat about brand designers and strategists.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, we're out. Look at this cute photo.
Oh, yeah.
Became